Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Padamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sandhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all to our Bhagavad Gita classes. We are on the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled as Observing the Armies on the Battlefield. And today, we'll be talking about a very interesting section of the first chapter. So far, we have been discussing the first two sections of the first chapter, which is, we began with talking about the duplicity of Dhritarashtra and the diplomacy of Duryodhan, which is the first 13 verses of the first chapter. And then we spoke about the introduction of Krishna for the first time in the Gita. Today, we'll be talking about the third section of this chapter, which is signs for victory. So let us begin this discussion by talking about Krishna's appearance in the Gita once again. And I'll give you some very interesting insights which will help you understand, appreciate the entry of Krishna in the Gita. Usually, when anyone enters anywhere, you want to make your presence felt. The way a person dresses up, the way a person walks, the way a person, makes his or her entry. Interestingly, most movies, they emphasize so much on the entrance of the hero. I remember many years back, I had watched one Rajinikanth movie, and the movie began by, it's a very fascinating way how Rajinikanth enters. In the whole movie, like the first, all the title and all that was coming, one cap was flying. And the cap was flying and flying and flying and flying. All the titles, all the names were coming. And then finally the cap landed on his head. And that's how he entered the movie. So naturally, the entry of a hero is very dynamic. And obviously, Krishna is the hero of the Gita. But the way Krishna enters the Gita is very interesting. He enters as a chariot driver. So now, entry of a driver, when a hero enters as a driver, it's not exactly the most fascinating entry. It's not like the most dashing or dynamic entry. It's a very humble entry, actually. And Krishna appears as the chariot driver of Arjuna to show us the importance of learning how to be a servant. In this world, being a servant is not at all something that is a desirable thing. If you ask someone, what do you want to be? Nobody says, I want to be a servant. That's like totally disgraceful. That's totally not exactly appealing to the human mind and the human heart. But Krishna's entry in the Gita is that he is a servant. The Mahabharata explains about how a chariot driver is dealt with. The chariot driver is actually in a position of quite a lot of insult in the sense that when a passenger, when the warrior on the chariot is driving, is in a war, in a very tense situation, which is usually what happens in the battlefield. The way they communicate with the drivers is by kicking the driver. They obviously cannot speak because they're chanting mantras while shooting arrows. Their hands are busy because both their hands are, using weapons. So the only way they communicate to a driver, to the chariot driver, take right, take left, by kicking the driver. So if the person in the back kicks the driver on the right side, the chariot driver knows he has to move right. Kicks on the left side, knows he has to move left. So like that, just based on the kicks of the passenger to the driver, the direction of the chariot is oriented. Now imagine, for 18 days of the war, Krishna has been undergoing kicks by Arjun all day long. Isn't that something amazing? Look at the humility of Krishna, such a famous person, but ready to become a driver of his friend and ready to be kicked for all day long. It is said, Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. The constitutional nature of a living entity is to be servant of Krishna. Is to be, that's the innate nature of a living entity. But here, Krishna is appearing as a servant of his devotees. The interesting thing about Krishna and his desire to serve is fascinating if you look at it from this point of view. All of us, when we travel in airplanes, or when we when we go to any hospitality industry, like hotels or restaurants and things like that, usually there is a concept of service, isn't it? If you go to a shop also, there is a concept of customer service and things like that, But when people serve in a like a air hostess or a steward, when they serve, what is the thought process when they serve? They may have the best of smiles and they welcome you, namaskar, and welcome aboard, and they look as if they're so excited to serve you. But you know what? There's actually no desire to serve you. There is no actual heart of really serving the person. One time, there was a particular flight where people were entering into the flight, and the air hostesses were like just getting ready to get people in. Somehow it happened that one guy got in while they were doing all the preparations and all, and he was sitting in a place where they couldn't see him basically, and then the flight was ready to be opened up for passengers. So when the passengers were walking in towards, from the aisle towards the flight, just about to enter, two air hostesses talking to each other, and one is telling the other, "The pigs are here." Imagine, one is telling the other, "The pigs are here," and one after other passengers are coming in, and there was this one guy sitting inside already, and he got the shock of his life when he heard that. They imagine. So a lot of times when we talk about the service industry and the whole idea of seva, or the whole idea of wanting to serve people, it's very different from what it really is. Therefore, what is bhakti? Bhakti is defined, or rather Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, when he translates the word bhakti into English, he doesn't translate the word bhakti as devotion. He uses a very interesting word. He says devotional service. And that's what makes bhakti very special. It's a devotional service, just like a mother serves a child. Is there any calculation of the number of hours that she wants to serve in a 9-to-5 duty and a particular number of hours? Nothing like that. It's just selfless. And that's what service really is. Like a married man went to a counselor, a marriage counselor, and he told the counselor, "I don't love my wife." The counselor gives him an advice. He tells him, "Go and love her." The man says, "I don't feel like loving her." The counselor says, "Love is not a feeling. It's a verb. Do something." a lot of times we are just thinking about feeling, we just think love is a feeling, but love is action. And it is seen in what kind of actions you actually do to show that you love someone. Krishna loves Arjun, but look at what he's ready to do to serve Arjun, to prove that he serves Arjun, that he loves Arjun. I mean, anyone can say, I love my country. Anyone can say, I love Krishna. You can wear a t-shirt that says, I love Goa, or I love India, or I love Krishna, or I love Vrindavan. You can wear all that. But love is seen in an element of sacrifice. What are you ready to sacrifice to prove your love for someone? So when we say that we want to love God, when we say that we want to love Krishna, what am I ready to sacrifice to prove that I really love? And that shows your true love. And what is Krishna's sacrifice? He is the Lord of the universe, ready to become a driver. If a boss becomes a driver, it's not at all something that is normally seen in this world, right? Krishna is known as Lakshmi Pati. He is known as Madhava. Madhava means someone who is the husband of the goddess of fortune. So Krishna is Madhava. He is Lakshmi Pati. But someone who has so much is ready to get down and become a driver. The status of a servant Krishna has taken up. And that's what makes him so special. There's a very interesting story of a personality, a man named Zaveri Poonawala. He's a very well-known industrialist in Pune. And he had a driver named Gangadat. And this driver worked for him for almost 30 years. And he used to drive the limousine of this man for almost 30 years. One fine day when this man was traveling somewhere for some meetings, he went to Mumbai for some meetings, and this driver, he passed away. When Poonawala, this man, the boss, he came to know that the driver has passed away, he cancelled all his meetings because he wanted to come back and be with his driver for the funeral rites. He called up the family and told them, don't cremate. I want to be there for the cremation. And he personally flew down in a helicopter just to be there as soon as possible. And this man, the boss, he brought his limousine and he insisted that the body of this driver be taken, the last rites be taken in the limousine. So they drove him, and this boss himself drove the car because he said 30 years he has served me in this very car, and 30 years he has been such a good companion, a friend, serving me in the most amazing way, and I need to reciprocate. I need to give back just a mark of gratitude. All earn money. There's nothing unusual in that. But we should always be grateful to all those people who contribute for our success. This is the sanskar that actually transforms people. If you think like this. So here is Krishna, who is Madhava, who is Lakshmipati, who is ready to be a driver of his devotee. And that's the mood of the Lord, ready to reciprocate to with his devotees. And he feels very happy and satisfied by doing that little act. So Krishna's introduction in the Gita is as a driver. And then we find that Krishna blows the conch shell. So we spoke very elaborately about the idea of sound last time, from the blowing of the conch shells, and so many lessons that we learned from sound. Now we're going to go further and talk about the third aspect of this chapter, which is signs of victory. So we're going to see 9 signs of victory on the side of the Pandavas. The Bhagavad Gita has not even begun. But there are, the war has not even begun. Just the conches have been blown. But yet there are 9 signs that clearly show that the Pandavas are going to win. So here are the 9 signs that show that the Pandavas are going to win. And interestingly, these 9 signs can be present in our lives also, if we want it to happen. If we really understand what these 9 signs are, So the first sign which heralds the victory of the Pandavas is that Krishna was personally present on their side. So the presence of Krishna is a lot. Krishna is someone who knows your problem. First of all, most of us, when we go through problems in life, when we go through crises, when we go through difficulties, when we go through tensions, anxieties, and etc. What is the one thing that everyone really hopes for? The one thing that everyone hopes for is someone understands what I'm going through. Most of the times, people don't even understand what we're going through. So having Krishna in your side first, it means he knows your problem. He not only knows your problem, but he understands your problem. See what happens? There is a big difference between knowing and understanding. A lot of people theoretically know things, but are they able to perceive what we are going through? That's known as empathy. There is a big difference between cognizance and empathy. Cognizance just means awareness, but empathy means you are not just aware, but you're actually feeling the pain of the other person. So Krishna is not just aware of the problems of his devotees, but he also feels the pain of the devotees' problems. And the third thing is, he wants to help. And this is so rare today. How many of us have somebody in our life who wants to help us? Hardly. Krishna wants to help his devotees deal with their problems. And the fourth aspect of having Krishna is he can help. So we may have someone who understands us. We may have someone who empathizes with us. We may have someone who wants to help us. But you know what the problem is? Most of us don't have anybody who can help us. So whether a person can help or no, it depends on the ability of the person. Krishna not only wants to help us, he can help us also. And that's what the idea of Krishna personally being present is. Wherever Krishna is present, victory is certain. And the presence of the Supreme Lord in our lives is so very important. And especially when we are weak and struggling, we definitely need the presence of the Lord in our lives. Here is something from the Ramayana that will give you some very interesting insights on this. Sugriv in the Ramayana had a lot of problems. He was a very weak person. He was a person who had a weakness of character. But in spite of that, he could come close to Lord Ram because of 2 reasons. He had 2 qualities in him that helped Sugriv come closer to Ram. So the first quality that Sugriv had that brought him close to Ram is that he had the association of saints. Sugriv had Hanumanji with him, a great saint. And because Sugriv had the association of saint, that became his first quality for him to have the association of God. We may have weak character. We may have weaknesses in our lives. But if we have association of devotees, then there is hope for us to come close to God. The second quality that Sugriv had was he was simple. He had simplicity. When he told the Lord his story, when he told Ram his story, he could have easily omitted his mistakes. But he admitted being a coward. And he admitted all his other weaknesses. He didn't hide any facts. The Lord was very happy to hear Sugriv's story. In fact, he told Lakshman that I'm very happy with Sugriv's simplicity. Straight away, he was open about his weakness. And Sugriv himself narrated his whole story and did not omit any of his flaws. Admitting one's weakness is very important to get connection with God. It's very important for a patient to admit all his weaknesses and tell all his symptoms very frankly to a doctor. Now imagine if a patient goes to the doctor and he says, I'm fine, everything is okay. What the doctor will help you? Unless the patient admits that I am weak, I am struggling, I have problems, I have flaws, the doctor can't help you at all. So some symptoms are very embarrassing to tell, and the patient may even hide it. In such cases, when the patient hides the symptoms, the disease actually becomes incurable at some point. And therefore, the strength of Sugriva was that he was not embarrassed to tell all his symptoms. He was not embarrassed to tell all his weaknesses. And that is so very important for the Lord to take responsibility of your life. Why did Ram take responsibility of Sugriva's life? Because this guy admitted his weakness and his problems. Why did Krishna take responsibility of Arjun's life? Because Arjun admitted his weakness and his problems. And that is the first thing that we need to do. And therefore, when we understand that we have problems in our life, let us also understand that the solution to all problems of life is that we need to add God into our life. Add Krishna into our lives. That's the solution for a lot of problems in life. Most of the times, we tell God how big our problems are. But how many times do we tell our problems how big God is? Our entire life goes on complaining to God about how big our problems are. The moment we start telling our problems how big God is, half our problems get solved. Interestingly, the solutions to all our problems in life is simply add Krishna into our lives, and you will find solutions coming on its own. The second sign of the Pandavas' victory is the presence of the goddess of fortune. As I said, Krishna is known as Madhava. He is also known as Lakshmi Pati. What is the meaning of Madhava? Ma refers to the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. And Dhava refers to the husband of the goddess of fortune. Lakshmi Pati refers to the husband of Lakshmi Devi. You cannot worship Lakshmi without Narayan. You cannot worship God without his energy. There is no sun without sunshine. There is no existence of sun without sunshine. So wherever the Supreme Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is present over there. There is no existence of God without his energy, and there is no existence of the energy without the presence of God. Krishna is the energy. Krishna is the energetic, and the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi, is the energy of the Lord. You cannot separate the energetic and the energy. People want Lakshmi, but they don't want Narayan. Anybody who wants Lakshmi without Narayan is actually playing the role of Ravan. Ravan wanted Sita without Ram. Wanting Lakshmi without Narayan is Ravan's mentality. And that's not a great mentality to have. Srila Prabhupada would often talk about how when Krishna is present, victory is certain. The idea of taking shelter of the goddess of fortune and seeing the presence of the goddess of fortune in connection with Krishna is so very important. Lakshmi Devi is known as Chanchala. One of the names of Lakshmi Devi is Chanchala. And she is known as Chanchala when she is alone. When Lakshmi is alone, she is Chanchal. She doesn't stay in one place. She becomes very restless. But when she is with the Supreme Lord, she becomes very stable. She loses this quality of being Chanchal. And therefore, a lot of people who feel that Lakshmi is unstable, she doesn't stay in one place, she is Chanchal, they don't understand this science. They don't understand the science of worshipping Lakshmi with Narayan. So a lot of people want Lakshmi without Narayan. And that's Ravan's mentality. A lot of people want Narayan without Lakshmi. And that's also bad. That's also wrong. You cannot separate the two, and they are inseparable. When they are together, the force is very powerful. Let me tell you a true story that happened a couple of years back in Calcutta. There was one young boy who went to attend a satsang program. One of our leaders, ISKCON leaders, is giving a lecture, and this boy was like very highly impressed with the talk. Is very highly influenced. So he went after the lecture. It was like a big pandal program types, and he went after the lecture saying that I want to talk to this person. And the disciples told him, no, you can't talk. He's very busy and all that. He said, no, please tell me. I'll do anything, to talk to him, to spend some time with him. Now, these devotees, they had a very interesting idea to inspire him to chant and all. They told him only those who are chanting 16 rounds can go and meet him. This fellow, he didn't even know what 16 rounds was. He didn't know what Hare Krishna Mahamantra was. He didn't know anything. He said, no, tell me, I'll start right now. And they gave him beads and they told him how to chant Hare Krishna. That night itself, this fellow started chanting 16 rounds. Imagine, like in one lecture, such a powerful impact. Straight away started chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which takes almost like 2 hours. And the next day he went and said, I'm doing 16 rounds, please allow me to meet him. And the devotees slowly, encouraged him. And then this guy became a very close, very much part of the community there. One day, this guy was chanting, sitting at home and chanting on his beads Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Suddenly he heard a voice from inside. The voice told him, go and sell all your shares. While chanting, a lot of voices you hear, you don't know which one to believe and which one not to believe. This guy went to his father and he said, I heard a voice while chanting that we should sell all our shares. The father said, first stop chanting. All these strange voices you're hearing. This boy, something inside was telling him, I should go and do it. He pushed his father and took him to the bank. And they met a bank manager. 25 years, this guy has been, the head of the branch. And when he heard this guy's story, and then they said, we want to sell all our shares. This man, he was like bewildered. He said, I've never heard anything like this. He said, I can tell you in my 25 years of experience, this is the best time. If you want, buy now, don't sell now. Anyway, they went ahead and sold all the shares. And 7 days after that, the Lehman brother crashed. And this family saved 7 crore rupees. This bank manager came running to their house next day. And he said, which mantra you're chanting? Please tell me also. And then this bank manager started chanting 16 rounds because he had never ever heard anything like this. So the point is that when you add Krishna into your life, Lakshmi also comes. So Krishna and Lakshmi, they have a very powerful combination in which they help and assist a devotee in his life. And therefore, the goddess of fortune is present wherever there is the presence of Krishna, the presence of the Supreme Lord. And you'll find all kinds of resources coming when we know how to use Artha. Artha and Dharma are very strongly connected to each other. If Artha is used in propagation of Dharma, if Artha is used in the right way for the right cause, Artha increases. And if Artha is separated from Dharma, then Artha causes problems. Artha becomes Anartha. When Artha is in connection with Dharma, that Artha purifies. But when Artha is not connected to Dharma, it becomes Anartha, which means wise. The third proof or the third sign of victory of the Pandavas is a chariot given by Agnidev. It is explained that when the Pandavas were given this barren tract of land known as Khandav Prastha, they practically lost everything. And Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan handed over a barren piece of land known as Khandav Prastha. Khandav forest was a very, very not just desolate, but it was a very wild forest. No fruit-bearing trees, nothing good grew there. In fact, there was a lot of negative energy there. So Krishna and Arjuna were taking a stroll in that area, and they came across this old man, very elderly Brahmana. This elderly Brahmana came to Arjun and he said, I need your help, please. I'm suffering so much. So Arjun asked him, who are you? What happened to you? And this elderly Brahmana was none other than Agni, the fire god. He introduced himself and he said, I am returning back from a king named Svetaki. This king has been performing a very powerful yajna, and because he did such a big yajna, he poured so much ghee into fire that I've got indigestion. Imagine, Agni also has indigestion problem. So, so Agni said, I've consumed so much of ghee that I'm really suffering. I need your help to help me get rid of this indigestion. So Arjun said, what can I do for you? Agni said, there is a forest known as Khandav here. There is lots of herbs that have healing property in it. If I just consume this forest with my fire, I can get rid of this, indigestion. Arjun said, no problem, go ahead, I'll help you. Agni told him the problem. The problem is, as soon as he starts consuming the forest, Indra would pour rain. Because Indra had a friend named Takshak, who was a snake, inside that forest. And Indra wanted to save that snake. So Arjun said, don't worry, I'll help you. So Agni started consuming the forest. And Arjun created a canopy of arrows above the forest. And actually, because of that canopy of arrows above the forest, Indra couldn't pour a single drop of rain. And Agni was so grateful for him to be relieved of that pain and that suffering that he was going through. He gave Arjun a bow named Gandiva, the famous Gandiva bow, and an inexhaustible quiver of arrows. And in addition, Agni also gave him this chariot to facilitate the whole process of saving the saving Agni. The second thing is that along with the chariot, there was a set of horses given by a Gandharva named Chitraratha. The understanding that we get from this particular, these two aspects is that whenever one is trying to do something for the service of the Lord, whenever one takes shelter of the Lord, all the different devatas support the endeavor. You get assistance from the universe. The universe conspires to help you achieve something that otherwise seems unbelievable, otherwise seems inconceivable, otherwise seems so impossible. And that is a very powerful sign of the presence of God in your life. The fifth sign is a conch shells. When Krishna blew the conch shell, we had a very detailed discussion last time about conch shells. When Krishna blew the conch shells of Krishna and Arjuna is known as Divya Shankau Pradatmato. Divya Shankau means these conch shells, the divine conch shells. And when Krishna and Arjuna blew their conch shells, the Kauravas felt terrified. There was fear in the heart of the Kauravas. The hearts of the Kauravas were shattered. One time, a band of thieves decided to loot a restaurant, a very elite kind of restaurant, and a band of thieves wanted to loot that restaurant. And whoever was sitting over there, he wanted to take money from them, basically. Very simple, like not a big loot, but a simple loot, basically. So they turned off the lights, and one of the guys went with a tiny torchlight inside. And at some point, when they had completely taken over that area, they put on the light. And to their shock, they realized the whole party that was going on over there was a party of policemen. Only police people were there in that whole restaurant that day. Now imagine. So usually when the conch shell is blown, the idea of blowing the conch shell is connected with the heart. When Krishna blew his conch shell, anybody who was pious, they felt inspired. They felt really excited and inspired. And anybody who was on the wrong side, they felt fear in their hearts. And this is what Krishna's conch shell does, according to who you are. So it's not that Krishna does different things to different people. It is just that according to your relationship with him, and your relationship with dharma, the way you perceive him is different. If you have done something wrong, you will not be able to face him. You will be scared of him. But if you have not done anything wrong, you have nothing to fear him. You will love him. In fact, you'll be confident of his presence in your life. And that is a very, very powerful sign of victory. Fear is felt when one does something wrong. All of us have experienced this in our own lives. Fear has some connection with right and wrong, has some connection with being on the right side. Yes, even if you have every reason to fear, because of uncertainty that comes into your life time to time, just the fact that I am on the right side is enough to convince you that very soon everything will be okay. Just the fact that I am on the right side is enough to give you the strength to go on in spite of impending calamity or fear that is around you, about you. Yudhishthir's conch shell in this section of the Bhagavad Gita has a very interesting name. And the name of Yudhishthir's conch shell is a sixth sign of victory of the Pandavas. Yudhishthir's conch shell is named as Ananta Vijay. The word Ananta, Anta means the end. Anta means no end or endless. Ananta Vijay means unending victory, endless victory. And that is another sign of the Pandavas going to be victorious. The seventh sign of the Pandavas going to be victorious is this, Kapi Dhwaja. Those who are a part of the Hanuman Chalisa course, we have been discussing. Interestingly, I mean, it's totally unplanned and very coincidental that this verse of the Gita is coming up exactly at this point in the discussion. Just last Saturday, I discussed about Kapi Dhwaja sorry, we spoke about Hanumanji, Hatha Vajra or Dhwaja Viraja. Spoke about that verse. And here in the Gita, we talk about the concept of Kapi Dhwaja. Very auspicious. So the presence of Hanumanji on the flag of Arjun indicates the victory of the Pandavas. The presence of Hanumanji on the flag of Arjun has many connotations that, in the Mahabharata. One is voice. Let me explain this concept in a very interesting way so that you will be able to appreciate it better. When Hanumanji was in the Ramayana and he was a part of the Vanar Sena, and the Vanar Sena had to jump across the 800-mile ocean, Hanuman didn't speak anything, how much he could do. Jambavan reminded him. Jambavan inspired Hanuman. And after Jambavan inspired him, Hanuman actually jumped across the whole ocean and did so much. But interestingly, Jambavan himself didn't jump. He could have done it. In fact, Jambavan tells Hanuman and all the Vanaras that when I was young, I could have not, what to speak of 800-mile ocean, I could have gone around the universe. He said when Vamanadev extended his feet, I went around the universe 21 times. Jambavan was that powerful. But that was when he was young. Now he's old. And because he's old, he said, I cannot even jump across a puddle. And Jambavan inspires Hanuman to go and do it. Hanuman became the hero of the Ramayana. But the same Hanuman, when he comes to the Mahabharata, what does he do? He's sitting on the flag. And now, sitting on the flag of Arjun, what does Hanuman do? He inspires Bhima. So when Hanuman meets Bhima in the jungle, he tells Bhima, in the Mahabharata war, I will come and assist you. And how does Hanuman assist Bhima? Two ways. One, he teaches him, gives him knowledge, gives him his experience and wisdom, training. The second way Hanuman inspires Bhima is when Bhima is making his war cries. In the war, the Kshatriyas would shout intensely. Why the Kshatriyas would have these intense war cries? Because the war cries themselves are so powerful that it can make the enemy lose his confidence. So when the enemies would hear Bhima's war cries, they would shiver. And Hanuman told Bhima, when you make your war cry, I will also cry along with you. So then the decibels are much, much higher, right? So this is Hanuman's contribution in the Mahabharata. What was he doing? He was just giving his voice. When you're young, you can be a visible leader. When you're young, you're dynamic and doing so much that everybody can see. But as you become older, you have to become an invisible leader. Invisible leader means you're not in the forefront, you're in the background, and somebody else is in the forefront. What is your role? Your role is to inspire the guy in the front by your voice. Every leader gets an opportunity to become an invisible leader at some point in life. We should become invisible leaders. Hanumanji, look at his humility. He was the hero of the Ramayana. And in the Mahabharata, what does he do? Sits on top. That's all. He doesn't do anything much. That shows his humility. But just the presence of Hanuman indicates power. There are two types of mindsets in this world, short term and long term. Just like milk and alcohol, they're two different things, right? Milk is nutritious, alcohol creates excitement. Pride is also known as mother or honey. But mother also means alcohol. Interestingly, if one person is given milk and the other person is given alcohol, who gets influenced first? Naturally, the person who drinks alcohol gets excited first, right? He feels very energetic suddenly, you beat him up, nothing will happen. The milk doesn't cause that. Milk doesn't cause sudden excitement and euphoria and sudden burst of energy and all that. Milk has long-term effect. But alcohol, excitement is momentary, but it leaves you with long-term problems. Similarly, pride is like false energy. Materialistic people say to be successful, drink. Basically become proud, proud that I'm successful, proud of my, success. You should have some kind of addiction. It's the wrong philosophy. So the idea is that when you are successful, you're also cognizant of the fact that the success is not only mine. There are many factors that are behind my success, and the voice of so many people which is there to inspire me to achieve what I'm achieving today. Hanumanji, sitting on the flag of Arjun, is teaching us many things. One is the idea of invisible leadership. But the second is the idea that even when the most powerful hero of the Ramayana is present on the Mahabharata, Krishna doesn't need you. Krishna makes Hanumanji sit on top of the flag to teach all of us, you may be Hanuman, but you're not needed. Imagine that. Hanuman is there. If just Krishna tells Hanuman, go and fight with these guys, he can destroy the whole Kaurava army in one day. 18 days is not needed also. But Krishna tells Hanuman, sit over there. And Hanuman is just sitting there quietly, not at all doing anything, just to teach us that you may be the hero of the Ramayana, but in the Mahabharata, you're not needed. And the presence of Hanuman and the humility with which Hanuman sits teaches us some really powerful lessons. The most important lesson that the presence of Hanuman teaches us in this particular section is that devotees are willing to help the Lord in so many ways. They're ready to go out of their way to serve the Lord in His mission. And the presence of devotees in our lives heralds victory. The next symbol of the presence of victory of the Pandavas is the presence of Sita and Ram. Wherever Hanumanji is present, Sita Ram is present in Hanumanji's heart, right? So wherever Hanuman is present, Sita Ram is present only, for sure, basically. So Hanuman naturally means Sita Ram is present in his heart. And wherever Sita and Ram are present, victory is for sure. The presence of Ram actually indicates many things. I'm going to share one very interesting thought from the Ramayana that will help you understand this idea of the presence of Ram and the importance of the presence of Ram in all our lives. So when Ram is fighting against Ravan, something very interesting happens in the Ram-Ravan fight. Ram is cutting off the heads of Ravan. Every time he cuts off a head, another head appears. Again, he cuts off the head, one more head appears. So the one after another heads are cut off, one after another arms are cut off. But again and again, new heads are coming and new arms are coming. Rama was very confused. What is happening over here? The understanding of the cutting of Ravan's head signifies intelligence, but head is also the seat of doubts. When you go to a satsang program, when you come to a lecture like this, typically, what happens is a lot of our doubts get solved, right? When you come to a satsang, doubts go away. But interestingly, when you're sitting in the satsang and you're hearing a nice lecture, you feel very inspired. Your intelligence feels fresh, a lot of clarity and very, very amazing feeling you get. But as soon as satsang gets over, suddenly doubts start coming again. That's like Ravan's head. You cut off one head, one more head comes up. Then you cut off that head, one more head comes up. You solve one doubt, another doubt comes. You solve that doubt, third doubt comes, basically. So this, the moment you step out of the lecture, head grows back again. So the idea of cutting Ravan's head is to show us that Ram is trying to show us how difficult it is to win a war. War against evil is not a momentary war. It's not that you cut one head, you have won against evil. No, evil will come out again in another way. We should not be under the impression that when we do one kirtan, all our problems are solved. When we do one yajna, all our problems are solved. When we do one good activity, all our problems are solved. No, these problems keep coming again and again. So it's not that you do one good activity. A lot of people say, "Us din main kuch acha kiya. That day I went to the temple. That day I read Gita." It's not that day. It is every day. The war is a daily affair. Don't think that you do it once, you're sorted for life. No. Every single day, the war has to be fought. And we have to be diligent. Problems come one after another, lifelong. Ram himself tires and he looks at Vibhishan. And God is, trying to figure out, how do you destroy this guy? So, to help us destroy, so these doubts keep coming back again and again. Finally, Vibhishan tells Ram, the only way you can kill Ravan is not by cutting off his heads, but in his navel, there is a amrit, there is a secret nectar pot. Only when that nectar dries, then Ravan dies completely. So all of us, we're trying to solve doubts, One doubt comes, then we answer it, we get another doubt. We answer that doubt, then we get third doubt. So every time we go to satsang, we get an answer and the doubt comes, another doubt comes up. How do you permanently solve this problem? The answer is not in the head that doubts. The answer is in your navel. And what does that answer, that navel represent? Ravan's navel represents our chitta, or consciousness, sanskaras, which need to be changed. So what we really need is not a change of intelligence, but we need a change of consciousness. So when we are actually taking shelter of Krishna's holy names, and the chanting of the holy names is not just purifying our habits. Getting rid of bad habits is easy, but getting rid of the desire to do sin is difficult. Getting rid of sin is the easy part, but getting rid of the desire to do sin, that is the difficult part. And therefore, when we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, the attack is not at the external doubt level. The attack is at the sanskar level. The attack is at the chitta level. The attack is at the deepest consciousness level where we get purified. And that purification reflects in all aspects of our life. And when we get purified at the innermost level, the level of our consciousness, that is the consciousness with which we live our life. And therefore, the presence of Sita and Ram in the Mahabharata, in the heart of Hanumanji, on the flag of Arjun, indicates that definitely Arjun is going to be victorious. So when a devotee is trying to do something for the service of the Lord, all the avatars are present and support the devotee in his endeavor. And finally, the last lesson or the last sign of the victory of Arjun is the name of Krishna. He is known as Rishikesha. What is the meaning of Rishika? Rishikesha means Rishika Isha. The word Rishika refers to our senses. We have 10 senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses and 5 working senses. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, the touch, all of these are senses, basically. Hands, legs, all of them are senses. What is the meaning of Rishikesha? Isha means controller. And Rishika Isha means the controller of the senses. For anyone to achieve any success in life, there are many factors. And one of the most important factors is how we use our faculty, right? Like say, just giving you some gross examples. Like you play cricket and you're having some reflex actions, right? What are those reflex actions? Like say, for example, I remember in my younger days when I was playing cricket once, I was fielding in one very, very far place, and somebody hit a sixer. The ball came flying and it was like right above my head. I couldn't even see it, sunlight and all that. I just held my hand up like this. And I was shocked to find the ball stuck in my hand. I don't even know how it happened. I can't even understand it is whether it was reflex or whether it is, I don't even know. Many times we actually feel things like this, where we don't know how we're using our senses. It seems to be almost automatic that we do something with our senses and it just seems perfect. It seems to be like almost like a miraculous solution to something. The way we use our senses sometimes is in our control, and there are many times that is not in our control. I'm sure all of you have experienced this, right? Where you do something just out of reflex, just out of intuition, just out of a habit, whatever it is, but it's not you. It's some force that is within you that is making you do some things, and that force that you are not in control of, that you have no awareness of, and that force that you have no idea what it is, that is known as Rishikesha. All our senses are guided, should be guided by Rishikesha. When we take shelter of Krishna, we're actually taking a shelter of Rishikesha. We all have intelligence to think, right? But do you think you get ideas when you think? I often talk about this. I once went to a publishing house, and there was one particular place where there was a chair kept in a very strange corner in that publishing house. And I was fascinated by the chair and the way it was kept over there. So I asked them, what is this chair and why is it doing in this particular corner? They said it's a thinking chair. I asked them, did anybody get an idea by sitting on this chair and thinking? They said, till date, nobody has got an idea by sitting on that chair and thinking. So we all can make all kinds of arrangements for us to get ideas and for us to use our intelligence and stuff like that. But Krishna is Rishikesha. If only ideas were all in our control, that guy who ran from the bathroom shouting Eureka wouldn't have done that, right? We will not get the strangest of ideas when we least expect them and we least want them, right? It would be very much in our control. Unfortunately, we are not the controllers of our senses. We are simply people who are dependent on the Supreme Lord's mercy for being directed. When we take shelter of Rishikesha, he directs our senses. What do you mean by directs our senses? It means that Krishna inspires us to see the right things. Krishna inspires us to hear the right things. Krishna inspires us to speak the right things. How many times we wish we had not spoken this? Isn't it? How many interviews you have gone for, and that one thing you spoke by mistake costed you your interview? How many times we spoke something to a friend or a relative or someone whom we love, and that has costed us so badly our relationship itself, right? So we are so much in a desire that we have a little more control of ourselves. We have a little more control of our tongue, a little more control of our ears, a little more control of our nose, a little more control of our eyes. a little more control of our actions. This is the secret. Krishna is Rishikesha. And what is the benefit of Krishna being Rishikesh to Arjun? The interesting thing is, Arjun is going to use his hands and legs. He's going to use his bow and arrow. He's going to use his eyes. He's going to use his senses. And Krishna is Rishikesh. That means just by having Rishikesh on his side, Arjun is sorted because his senses will get direction now. His senses will get power and clarity and absolute efficacy. And that is the most powerful sign of the victory of the Pandavas. Krishna is Rishikesha. He guides our intelligence. He guides our mind. He guides our senses. All of us are struggling so badly with a misguided mind. We are struggling so badly with a misguided intelligence. We are struggling so badly with misguided senses, because of which we have acquired so many wrong habits. We're struggling with so many of anarthas that we're all trying to give up. But somehow we are not able to do it. And therefore, we all need Rishikesh in our lives who can simply help us get the right guidance to sort out all of these for us. And therefore, these 9 signs that we saw today are the signs that show clearly that the Pandavas are going to be victorious. The first sign was the presence of Krishna personally on the battlefield. The second sign was the presence of the goddess of fortune. Wherever Lakshmi is, wherever Lakshmi Pati is, Lakshmi is going to be there. Fortune is going to be there. The third sign was the chariot given by Agni, indicates, and the horses given by Chitrarath. Both these indicate how demigods are excited, waiting to serve someone who's on the side of dharma. And then the conch shells, heralding transcendental victory. Yudhishthir's conch shell, is named Ananta Vijay. And Kapi Dhwaja, presence of Hanumanji on the flag of Arjun. And the presence of Sita Ram in the heart of Hanuman, which indicates all the avatars are present and ready to help someone who is wanting to serve the Supreme Lord. And finally, Krishna's name is Rishikesha. And the presence of Krishna is something that heralds, that gives us the guarantee, gives us the understanding that we are all going to be guided. Our intelligence, our senses, and our mind is going to be guided in the right direction. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. We can have some discussions and questions. I hope all of y'all are enjoying the Gita classes we're doing every week. And for all those of y'all who are here for the first time, we would love to hear how y'all are experiencing the Gita classes. And if you have any doubts and questions, please, I will have some time for question answers. Akhila, you would like to go ahead?